this meeting of Mills County Commissioners Court this 27th day of December, our last meeting of 2021, I believe, to order. And we'll start with standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and a prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Williams, would you lead us in prayer?
Yes. Dear Heavenly Father, bless this day that you have granted us. Father, be with us as we do the business in Mills County. And Father, bless our land with some rain and some moisture. Father, be with all those that are sick and that are part of our community and those that are abroad. Father, be with everybody as we start the new year. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Could you acknowledge that that's being live streamed so that goes away?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. Present in the courtroom, myself as county judge, Commissioner Wright, Commissioner Parton, and Commissioner Williams. So that makes a quorum in a legal meeting. Commissioner Guerin is attending and participating via Zoom, but not voting and not counting for a quorum. Also present in the courtroom, we have the county attorney, the county treasurer, and the county clerk. The first item on the agenda under number 2 is the minutes of December 10th and December 13th. If the court has had the opportunity to review those minutes. Let's take them one at a time. Are there any corrections or comments or questions on the minutes of December 10th?
I see none. Make a motion that we approve the minutes for December the 10th.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Williams to approve the minutes of December 10th, 2021. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have approved the minutes of December 10th. And the next one is the minutes of December 13th. Any questions, corrections, amendments?
Move for the minutes of December 13th.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Wright to approve the minutes of December 13th as presented. Is there a second? I'll second it. So motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes of December 13th, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Number 3 on the agenda, audience with individuals. The clerk informs us that no one has signed up to speak, so we have nothing in that item. Number 4, consider an act on accounts payable. This is a list that was distributed by the treasurer's office last Wednesday. Has everybody had a chance to review it? And are there any questions?
What's the inspect of the shipping container? It's $23.52.
That's mileage.
Okay.
They had a couple of, we got a couple of prices. This was the lowest price. The picture looked like, they had multiple price levels at this one vendor. We wanted to go with the cheapest, but wanted to make sure the doors worked. And so he drove to San
I didn't
Diego.
know what the inspect was. So
Yeah,
that's what
that was just mileage to go make sure by getting the cheapest one out there, we were not getting something that was unusable.
I heard those things that went up quite a bit to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, 47 is what they spent on it.
Yeah. Any other questions on accounts payable?
Make motion to approve the accounts payable.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the accounts payable. The motion was by Commissioner Wright, the second by Commissioner Williams. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed to approve the accounts payable? Number 5 is consider an act on the tech share agreement for indigent offense. This has been an annual agreement. Just to jump to the meat of it on the second page, Mills County share is $233. It's budgeted. We've been one of probably more than 20 counties in Texas that participate. It's allocated out based on population. So our share has been de minimis. It is automation that tracks the assignment of counsel for indigent defense in both county and district court. I think they were expanding it to include CPS court. This makes it's a paperless follow through with notice to everybody when an attorney's assigned, what work they've done. When a bill is submitted, it can be approved electronically and then electronically passed to the treasurer's office in the various county for payment. It's a real tracking tool and a paper saver, and for $233, it's a relative bargain.
So let Dale know a little history too. We went to Judge Steve Ellis and myself went down to Austin and got this, and we piggybacked on with big counties, like he was saying, Collins County and several others they needed this, and then we just happened to get on their piggyback with it, and so that's why our portion was so cheap. But we get the same thing as Collins County, Coryell County, and Bell County, and stuff like that.
And Dallas County,
And Dallas
Tarrant
County,
County. Yeah, it's
So, anyway, just a little history there.
so. Are there any? I would move approval of the annual addendum to the tech share agreement for Mills County.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Let's see what's happened to my screen.
Who provided that second?
Okay.
He motioned us like.
Okay. Number 6, discuss proposed revised subdivision ordinance. I've asked Mr. Roundtree, who was the chairman of the Citizens Advisory Committee on this, to attend. And Bobby, just if you'd go ahead and come to the podium to save you coming up later. We discussed this once before, a couple of weeks ago in Commissioner's Court. What came out of that was the suggestion that we eliminate all the things that didn't apply to Mills County, rural subdivisions in Mills County. That would primarily be in things like sidewalks, paved streets. That took a lot of pages out of the document. It was also suggested that there were requirements to either complete the improvements before approval or bond for them. And the suggestion was to remove all the discussion of bonding for it and just require completion. It's simpler. It took out a lot of requirements on the bonding side. It just means that now it falls on the designated engineer and the commissioner to inspect and say, yeah, these improvements are complete to our satisfaction. And the improvements in Mills County are basically the roads, interior roads in the subdivision. So those are the primary changes from what was presented by the Citizens Committee. Mr. Roundtree found a couple of typos, as did I, that we also corrected. There was stuff about water storage, where in one place it was 2,500 gallons, another place it was 5,000. And it talked about with and without municipal water supply and fire pressure, and all that has been cleaned up. We did not discuss, we didn't get past that, and we're running out of time at that meeting, so we reschedule a discussion. The other thing that I've been through is a lot of this document is forms. Almost half of the pages are forms to apply for things, but it included a fee schedule. And that's one, let me see if I can find the page that I would invite the court to especially look at. The way the fees are proposed is we have tried to sidestep the fees that are imposed by the clerk's office, because they have their own filing and recording fees that are set by statute and periodically changed. And so these are just fees for application and the things around the application process. So they're actually based on, a flat fee plus so much per lot. So a small subdivision pays relatively less. And
Page
one with,
24, I think page 24. I think we passed it, Judge.
oh, thank you.
Is that right? Says calculation of fees in the middle.
Well, I'm looking at page 24. Maybe we have different page numbers, and mine is titled Property Owner's Agent.
Yeah, but it's after that other one. After that, it says after property owners and consent, it says calculation of fees.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Well, no, I was looking for the fee schedule.
Oh, okay.
And it's on my document, it's on page 31. It's
Yeah.
Appendix B.
There, we got it.
Yeah, the form Commissioner Williams referred to is in one of these applications, they go to this schedule and make the actual calculations. But just to read it out for everybody's benefit, so preliminary plat, the application fee, now this is not filing fees in the clerk's office. The application fee is proposed at $300 plus $100 per lot and $1,000 minimum fee. So, a 4-lot subdivision is going to pay $1,000 for preliminary plat. 100-lot subdivision, let me see if I can do this in my head, would be, I think it would be $10,300. Then there's a final plat, which is $500 plus $50 a lot. So the logic is most of the work goes in processing the preliminary plat. Then there's fees for amending, vacating, and the interesting one is there's a variance fee of $200 per lot. And then these are numbers that are just proposed and I think should be discussed. An example of this, I think we had Rolling Oaks ask for a variance on, I'm trying to think what it was. Perk test versus engineering. And we declined it. Had this ordinance been in place, there would have been a fee being paid with that variance request, because the variance request forces a presentation back to Commissioner's Court, a lot of copies, a lot of time and consideration and discussion. That's the logic for it. And then there's inspection fees. And at this point, I think I'll shut up. Mr. Roundtree, you've lived this much as anybody. Would you like to
Yes, sir.
fill us in?
Honestly, it all looks fine to me. I think you look at these guys out here, there wasn't a lot of change in what we did. It still needs a lot of cleanup with periods and spacing. And there's some areas where the title of the section is at the bottom of the page and the narrative starts at the top. And it's just form to do that. But there is one question I have. If you look on, and Judge has to do that same area you and I talked about, it's on page 18. At the bottom, regarding fire protection. For 8.3 is you've added water storage tanks at least 2,500 gallons shall be installed every 1,500 feet and accessible from public or private roadways if the system does not provide sufficient fire flow. I guess it's my opinion, if you leave this, if you leave it the way it is, then I want to talk about what's on page 16, because there's additional information we're using there that we're not using here if you use storage tanks. But I guess it's my opinion that, leave item number 1, which is 8.1, it says the system shall be designed to provide sufficient fire flow requirements, pressure and flow rate, meeting the standards of the International Fire Code and TCEQ. Now, this is for subdivisions that are on public water supplies. These developers know how to do that. If they're on a public water supply, they may have to build a storage tank and provide a pressure pump. But that can be done. If you leave item 3 in there, then I promise you that's where they're going to go, because it's a lot cheaper to put those little plastic 2,500 gallon water storage tanks every 1,500 feet. Because certainly if they ask you guys for a variance from this for whatever reason, you could fall back on that. But if you put this in the ordinance, it's my opinion that they're going to go with that immediately.
So your suggestion would be to delete 8.3 and rely on 8.1.
Just delete 8.3,
Okay.
because you've already stated up at the top, it's to meet the pressure and flow rates established by the International Fire Code. And they may have other ways to do this than by what you've suggested in 8.3. They may not have to build a big storage tank or put a water pressure pump. They may have some ideas on how to do that, but if you just leave that 8.1 in there, hey guys, that's what you got to do. They may come back to you, but if you put 8.3 in there, which says you can put storage tanks every so often, that's what they're going to do. And that way they're not going to have fire hydrants every 1,500 feet. We've still got to move that water around.
We just want to be careful, I think, not to discourage the use of municipal water systems, because probably somewhere else, let's just use Rolling Oaks for an example, because that came with a letter from Corex saying we're not able to guarantee fire flow protection. So under this ordinance, they would have to engineer something to boost the pressure and the flow rate to meet that.
All I'm saying is don't engineer it for them.
I understand, but the alternative, if you're a developer, might be to say, okay, we are not going to have a municipal water system. We're just going to let everybody drill their own well. And then we'll avoid all this cost. That's where I would like to not go.
I agree. I don't disagree with that. But then if you do that and look back on page 16,
Okay.
That's what I was reading up there.
look back on page 16, and I would add to that section, if you're going to leave 8.3 on page 18, you go back to page 16, I would add 5.12, water storage tank shall be fitted with 2.5 inch NH national hose. That's what David Swartz requested. If you've got it in one section for a storage tank, put it in the other section for a storage tank. That's all I'm saying. And then you say maintenance of these tanks shall be responsibility of HOA. I put that same
So
statement.
you would put 5.12 and 5.13 in.
Yes, under section 8, where if you're going to leave section 8.3, which allows them to put in the storage tanks, use the same language in 5.12 and 5.13.
Mr. Hale, do you have a thought on this?
Well, I guess my observation, I guess, more than anything else is, I mean, I don't know any subdivision built that have a public water system.
Other than Rolling Oaks?
They have a public water system.
They I'm not using the right term. They will be served by the Corex public water system out of
Oh, okay.
Served by public water system.
Yeah, and San Saba has them. They have a
Right.
victory water system.
Right.
So there are some, I guess, outlying areas.
Right, and Zephyr serves some into Mills County.
County, I don't know.
Well, pretty good, if they decide to. City of Gulflake could if they decide to. And I think isn't there not a line from Brown County Water Improvement District?
There's some way out in the west.
In the county. So, I mean,
So I
maybe
stand
a
corrected,
remote-
I guess there are.
it may be a remote possibility. All I'm saying is stay consistent. If you're gonna leave it, storage tanks on one side of this thing for public water systems, be consistent with what you said if you don't have a public water system. You know, provide that, the hookups that your fire chief asks for, and it'll be maintained by HOA.
Well, I'm good with deleting 8.3. I just wanted to raise the issue that we don't want to discourage developers from relying on public water where they can. Because if we're trying to protect groundwater for the citizens of Mills County, the more we can steer the subdivisions toward municipal water, the better off everybody is.
Well,
Yeah, but it all comes from the same place.
but this one we're talking about 8 it talks about public water systems. So if you pull it out, it's not saying they can drill a well because you're talking about public water systems.
Right.
If you don't want public water system.
Because that's what it's under.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Okay. So you'd say delete 8.3.
Yeah, and I mean, I can see where he's saying that too, because it's
Okay.
under public water system.
Right.
They're not gonna go, I don't see how they're gonna go in and put a well on every place when you're saying you're in the public water system. Now, if you wanted to put an 8.3 and change it and say, I don't know how you would do it, but no water wells drilled for fire service, or something.
I agree with Bobby. I think the two sections need to be consistent.
Yeah,
So whatever change need to make them consistent.
I've got two other members of the committee here, to ask them, but I think if a developer has an opportunity to use the public water system, I think he's gonna do that as opposed to drilling wells and him providing, or that developer providing fire service. Leave it up to him on how to determine how to have the fire flow that's required by the International Fire Code and TCEQ, rather than the commission court saying this is, if you don't do this, you gotta do this. Let them decide.
I don't, as a practical matter, maybe it's just me, I guess, but I don't see any subdivider or even developer trying to develop a public water system for the subdivision based on water wells. Right?
Yes.
I had a client years ago that mobile home park in Williamson County. And he had a public water system based on water well. And TCEQ just absolutely drove him nuts. He ended up shutting it down. I mean, he couldn't. He got to the point that he couldn't comply with it. It's tough. If you can buy water from Brooksmith or somewhere else, that's a completely different matter because the water's already treated. What you got to do is have meters. And I can see that happening.
Yeah.
But I can't see anybody developing a public water system based on water well. But anyway.
That's all I'm saying, either make it consistent or take 8.3 out of the public water system where the developer makes a decision on how I'm gonna get my fire flow or rate, fire pressure rate up. That's really all. And I review the document, like I say, other than it still needs to be, put in the correct, spacing and commas and that kind of stuff. And I know Jackie will probably do that. But
Yeah, we can do that. I think to clear up if Mr. Hale's thinking the way this reads, then it's not that the subdivision have a public water system. It's that if a subdivision is served by a public water system, then this stuff, because you're right, they aren't going to do it themselves, but that we are seeing them where the service is coming from the outside.
Right.
And then we'll delete 8.3. I'm not sure the protocol, since we didn't post this as a public hearing, nobody signed up to speak, but as I understand our rules and I've reread them, we can call on people. So if there are other members of the committee present that would like to add to this, you're welcome to. We would just ask that you use share the microphone with Bobby. Okay. Let's just, what else?
Are you fine with everything? I mean, have you had a chance to review it and are you?
I reviewed it. What we did, when I talked to the judge about this, is we took the clerk fees off of the attachment because sometimes our fees change. And if it's listed about our fees as charged by the clerk, anytime our fees change, we don't have to come back and amend this agreement.
Okay.
So was our concern is for a couple of years, we may have a fee change.
Well, I guess that actually setting the fee, you say the fee is determined by the county clerk of Bill County. Your fees are approved by the court anyway.
Correct.
She can't just set a fee and
No.
it's what it is. The court reviews those fees anytime she needs to change them.
But it would just be one change in our system and not having to go change it in every document that lists a fee. But that's the application that the commissioners will collect for an application for this subdivision is their fees. And so
Right.
those fees are listed, but any of the filing fees are listed as referenced by, or fees approved by the clerk as blah, blah, blah. There's language in there for that.
I mean, I see her point. You don't want to have to amend your subdivision regulation. Every time there's a change in recording fees, but that's just a practical matter. But of course, I guess there is there going to be a breakdown on what those fees go to? I mean, we were talking about that you have a registered professional surveyor who reviews these flats. There was going to be a portion of those fees were going to go to the surveyor for his services. I don't know if you talked
I don't know,
about
it
that.
said it somewhere where.
I mean, that's the way it is in Brown County. I wonder-
Can we do that with our septic application? Our septic application is
Yes.
X amount, and a certain portion of that goes to our inspector.
So the breakout is on that rather than in the actual recording.
I believe that is correct. The recording fees and the breakouts on those are set by the state. We don't need to change how they're allocated.
I'm just telling you the way it is in Brown County, and whatever, if it's a $750 recording fee. And I don't know that they have an application for it. But if there's $750 recording fee, $250 of that goes, or $350, whatever it is, actually goes to the survey. And it's treasurer's office breaks that out. I'm not sure how to do it logistically.
Simply, we either add it to the report and it pulls it out of the reimbursement in order to do a expense request. And pay it out of that, and we have to just decide what line we're going to do that out of. When we agreed to appoint the surveyor, was his name John King?
Yes.
Didn't we need to go back and look at our minutes of what we agreed to pay him? Because that was on there.
His fee was going to be, he was going to bill it directly to the developer
Okay,
for inspection, of review of the survey.
so there was no pass through. He
That's
would
right.
bill And he would be responsible
Yes.
for the collection.
Well, he was going to let us know if anybody didn't pay.
Okay.
And before we did anything final, I checked with him to make sure he got paid.
Generally, if I get let them know.
Well, I know that's going to, I don't think surveyors are going to like that. Whether it's Don King or any other surveyor, I think the surveyor wants to have the county as his client rather than the developer. And I feel like most surveyors are going to want to build the county rather than build the developer.
Well, I think we can talk more broadly than surveyor because we have two issues. We have surveyors and we have the county designated engineers because they're things they have to inspect also.
Whichever it is.
Yeah,
And it's the same issue.
but Don King did that way, this
Yes.
way because of the old ordinance, not because of the new one,
Okay.
right?
Well,
I mean,
we
I mean,
we
that was
clearly
in
were
agreements.
operating under the old ordinance, so yeah.
Right.
So that's, I mean, so we're going
That's where we are
forward.
right now.
Yeah, going forward, we may want to make sure that that's on her filing fee
Well,
that he's paid. But that doesn't have anything to do with this
no,
document, does it?
it is telling me is we need to amend Appendix B, the fee schedule, to include both a survey fee and an engineering fee, and have those listed here. For instance, the engineer wanted to charge by the hour. And so then that depended on where the subdivision was, windshield time, and I forget his rate, but it was a reasonable hourly rate. And then he billed the developer.
Well, I think the difference there though is the engineer is actually the developer and engineer.
No, the developers are proposed using their engineer, and I told them that was a conflict of interest.
Right.
And so the county designated its own engineer to go out and look at Indian Springs.
I think it was $960,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
I don't know whether he ever got paid because he was supposed to go to the subdivision.
I agree with Gerald. I think your surveyor and your engineer would be prefer to be paid by you guys, because y'all hold the hammer with the developer.
Yeah.
If he doesn't pay the fee,
yeah.
the engineer or the appraiser charges you, then we all have to approve this plat. But then if the surveyor or the engineer's gonna get their money from the developer, that's a little different. And they are contracted with you and not the developer. Is that right, Gerald?
I don't recall if it's in this document, but in some of the drafts, when a preliminary plat was filed, there was a provision for a deposit for a processing fee. Do you recall where that is in here?
I don't think it's in this one.
Okay.
I think it may be in one of the earlier documents.
Do you think that's a good approach to
Oh,
it?
absolutely. They can put a deposit down, and you can use that to cover those fees. If you
Right.
That's-
We'd still bill it to them, and then at the end of the day, when it's recorded, refund whatever's left.
I do think though, you need to go to that exhibit B.
Yeah.
On that, what is it, page 31,
Yes.
and at that bottom little section down there, you can write in there those fees.
Okay.
Because it has at the top of that page, it says NB, these are application fees, recording and copying fees.
It says these are application fees, probably should say period, recording copy fees assessed by the clerk
Yeah,
are in accordance with the clerk's posted fee schedule. So that this was meant to carve out the application fees for the approval process from the fees associated with the public records recording.
but you could just say note. You could just say note down there.
Yeah.
But Bobby, by the 85 ordinances, their preliminary plat and their final plats were already approved before we ever bring one out there. Yeah, to check their stuff. So,
Has they all paid their filing fees, the other ones, Ms. Sonia?
I would have to look.
Okay.
For the most, if anything has been reported, yes, it's been paid, because we won't accept it without payment. But this is where there's a little bit of disconnect on how are we making sure that everything, and this is just new, and I don't know how Brown County does it. So I'm sitting in commissioner's court, so I hear you approve it, so I expect him to come bring it to me, where we're going to charge him. Well, we charge for recording a plat, and it has to be submitted on a thumb drive. If he wants additional copies, we can charge him what we normally charge for copies. We are working on updating our fee schedules as well, because this is not something we've done a lot of, and they actually just revised the fee schedule. It goes into effect 1/1. So we're going to see what kind of snap we get with our GL codes after the first of the year. We are not current on our recording prices that the state will allow us to charge. And Joy and I have been working on that. It's something we'll be presenting to the board in January.
I would hope, we talked about bringing back to amend this thing. I would hope you know, there are changes in commissioners and there are changes in judges. And I would hope this document will come back to you guys for review or amendment for fees, whatever it is, just to keep the new guys aware, hey, we do have this document. Whether you do it annually or every other year or something like that. I think it's important that this body stay aware that this document exists.
Well, just for the court's benefit on process is before a document could be adopted, we would have to publish a 30-day notice of a public hearing in the newspaper and conduct a public hearing and then vote and enact the ordinance. And that leaves out a couple of steps. So like, once we get what we like as a group, the next step is run an ad in the Eagle, and we have to wait 30 days. And then we have a public hearing and see what, if there is other public comment, consider it, and then either further amend or vote to approve. So those things have to happen before you do this. I don't know if that has to happen before you amend it, but that would be the reason why an annual review and amendment could be time consuming.
Other than that, I'm very pleased with the document. I mean, I don't quite I'll be honest, I don't understand everything in there because I've never dealt with it before, but it's a lot more than the 1985 one, is there?
But the funny thing is, people, you can ask Gerald, I've talked to him 2 or 3 times. People, no matter what you got, they're gonna read it the way they want it. And then whenever they hit you with something expecting an answer, you're like, hey, it's just as clear as mud. You know, because you really don't know until somebody hits you with that specific scenario on land, how you're going to respond to them. I respond by saying, let me get out to the county attorney.
Yeah, well, what Kelly's talking about, I mean, you very well may get some pushback from somebody, you know, some guy that owns 300 acres out here and he wants to divide half of it among his 3 kids and sell the other half. And then he finds out that he's gonna have to get a subdivision plan approved by the county and go through all this process and requirements, plan approval, and he ain't gonna like it. I can tell you right now what may happen, but I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I'm just saying you're ready.
I doubt that the citizens will like everything they do anyway. Just kind of guessing.
Commissioner Wright, do you have any other thoughts on this? Commissioner Guerin, you've been listening to all this. Is there anything you would like to share?
It looks pretty good to me, Judge. I don't know that we may be trying to get too much nitpicky stuff installed into it. I think we need to go ahead forward. We've got a pretty good deal. It's a whole lot better than the last one, and we need to sucker on the record, not talk about it from now on.
Commissioner Parton?
I guess my biggest deal with the whole thing, and I think I'm understanding it from our prior discussion, if we relieve them of the bonds and make them do their work before they can sell land, right?
We can't prohibit the sale of land. What we do is with the final plat is not approved until the improvements are approved. Now, the second part of your question should be directed to the county attorney as to whether or not that keeps them from selling land.
Well, the short answer is yes, it's a criminal violation if they sell tracts. Where a subdivision plat is required, without getting that plat approved by the county first.
And who would prosecute that?
Well, it'd be like any other criminal prosecution. There would be somebody would have to complain about it first. It would be funneled through the law enforcement somewhere or another, from the sheriff's office. They would investigate it and determine whether or not there's a criminal violation, and they would refer it to the proper prosecutor.
Goes back to enforcement of all of it. That's the problem.
The criminal violation, I've said this before, I want to emphasize it. The criminal violation is selling subdivided tracts when there has not been a plat approved by the county. Violating county subdivision regulations is not a criminal offense. The criminal offense is selling lots without getting a plat approved. That's in the local government. I think it's the local government. That the criminal violation is in the code. You don't actually, there's not a criminal violation for violating subdivision regulations.
But that's a preliminary plat or a final plat?
Final plat.
Final plat. So by that,
The preliminary plat is just part of the process. When you approve the preliminary plat, that's basically just telling the developer, if you do what you told us you're going to do, then we're going to approve your plat. I think it puts the commissioner's court in a position where you can't really disapprove of the plat at that point. If the developer does what he says he's going to do, I think the actual approval of the final plat is just what they call ministerial matter. It's just approving the plat. When you approve the preliminary plat, you pretty well approved it if he does what he says he's going to do. If he constructs the roads or does whatever it is to get from the preliminary plat to the final plat.
Does that answer your question?
yeah, until it comes up. I mean, because it's, I mean, it does answer the question, I guess, but the fact still is they would be breaking the law if they sold land before their final plat, but it has to be prosecuted for it to even happen.
Well, yeah,
They would be selling lots, subdivided lots when they have not filed. And the filing of the plat is the last thing that Sonia was talking about. When she gets the plat for recording, it's signed, sealed, and delivered by everybody in the process. The final process will be the commissioner's court signing off on it, voting to approve the final plat. The judge signs a certificate on the plat that's already been signed by the surveyor and the developer surveyor and the surveyor that the county has approved. You've got your engineering reports, it's all done. And then it's handed to the clerk's office and they just record it. And so, and until that final act is done, you do not have a recorded plat. The last thing that's done is for the commissioner's court to approve the final plat. Until that's done, it can't be recorded.
They allow there, say, any developer that comes in Mills County, buy land, put in development, knows that they need to come to the county to see what the planning process is. They know that.
They know that, but the ones that we have already done, their final plat has been approved and their construction is not done. And we were told that it was against the law for us not to
to withhold approval when they had posted a bond for the construction.
Well,
But that's come out of this ordinance now.
who is gonna get fined? That it starts in the initial phase of this stuff. That's what I'm saying. The developer can come into Mills County, Lampasas County, wherever, they know they have to come to you guys. So, and usually they can do that before they buy the land, I would think.
Well, if it's, and a lot of times if it's a big subdivision, it'll be developed in phases. You might have phase one that's over here on the west side, where they cut it up and put up the lots and build the roads first, and then you'll have the east part, and on the plat, it'll say reserved for future development. You might have 200 acres over here that's all one lot. Because they're not going to sell lots on that, so they get part on the east, west part done first. So you may have subdivisions that are submitted in phases.
Nobody ever said being a county commissioner was easy.
It'd just be nice to have the answer when somebody asks you the question rather than go, duh, duh, duh.
Won't happen, Dale.
You know,
Well, the short answer is if a tract of land is divided into 2 or more parcels and it's not otherwise exempt, then there has to be a plat of that subdivision approved by the county. And if there's not, and they sell lots, it's a criminal violation. It's a misdemeanor, but it's a criminal violation.
How is that caught?
Huh?
How is that caught?
you do it.
That's what I figured.
Well, it's like,
How am I supposed to know? I don't know everyone's property and they don't.
Well,
at the
it's like-
same time.
it's a criminal offense, it's like any other criminal offense. Somebody has to see it and report it.
Well, I think the question is, let's say they sell an unplatted lot, does the clerk under an obligation to record, to catch it in the recording of the deed?
Well, she's not going, if it's submitted and meets and bounds description, which is what they normally do, rather than lot and lot, you're not going to know.
No,
You just have to accept it.
I mean, the only way
Now,
I
if
can
they,
know.
if they bring a plat down there to record that hasn't been approved by the county, you get it back to them and say, no, you got to get it approved, that's easy.
But
So-
the only other way you're gonna know is if it's a public, small town, hey, so-and-so's place sold, they divided it into 3 places or 5 places or whatever. But we're not liable for not catching it, because we're not gonna know.
So there's a piece of property out west of town, and he bought it 900 acres, and then he was going to do a subdivision, then he saw all this and he didn't, and so now he's just broke it down to 3 or 4 lots or tracts of land,
Subdivision.
and he sold it. And some of the properties already sold, and it just come to the court as a meets and bounds, and it's not I say it's a subdivision. But he didn't do it that way. He just broke the land up and did it. And they're all exited off of Farm Market Road or County Road. And so that's
She's
their
not-
exemption.
She's not obligated to catch it.
Okay.
I mean, if somebody knows that that's what's happening, then it's like any other criminal offense. You go talk to the sheriff's office and say, there's a criminal violation going on here. You need to go investigate it and see if you think there is a criminal.
See, right now, all of the exits that sold have all been on Farm Market Road or County Road. So that makes the exemption.
Exempt, right.
Mhm.
Now, and I'll just tell you, in a practical matter, you go down to the sheriff's office and tell them there's an illegal subdivision out there, somebody's been selling off lots, and they're gonna start scratching their head. Saying, well, what are you talking about?
I've been down that road
Typical
with them.
thing that's investigated by the sheriff's office.
Mhm. Because it's a criminal charge and that's where the complaint starts before it gets to the prosecutor.
Right.
Well, back to this document, I'm good with this document with the changes and taking out that 8, what was it?
8.3.
8.3.
Well, I can, and working on the
And
fee
working on the fee
schedule.
schedule.
So what's the court's pleasure? Do you want to see another draft with those changes? Do you want to just go ahead and we could do that and simultaneously post or advertise for a hearing 30 days out, just to get that calendar running?
I think so. I think
Like
so.
Dale said, we got to make a decision sooner or later and
Yeah.
enforce something.
I think so. 30
Approve
days.
something.
Okay, well then we will post an ad for a public hearing 30 days out, make these changes and recirculate within the next week.
I wouldn't print them. I just send them out on.
Okay. Okay.
Until we get to the hearing, I guess, or whatever, you know, if you wanted a hard copy, but
Well, for the hearing, there will be a requirement that there be hard copies available if the public wants to come in and pay for the copying, and that it be posted on the county website electronically, which is what we did last time. Okay. Well, that,
Bobby, we thank you. John, Jed, thank you for all you did.
and it's not over.
We'll be calling you back.
Are we putting their phone numbers down on the bottom of the page? No, I'm just.
No. One thing just to throw out, and then I'll take it up offline with the county attorney and maybe other counsel, is when there's this thing called a requirement for a takings assessment. We did that almost 9 months ago on the original draft of this. My view is that this ordinance is a lot less intrusive than the ordinance that we've done the taking assessment on. And so there's going to be the open question of whether or not we need to do a second takings assessment, but that's a legal question that we'll explore. It shouldn't, it's separate from the public hearing. It won't slow it down. Commissioners' requests and reports. Commissioner Wright, Precinct 1.
We had to have our service truck repaired. The clutch went out on it. Bill's been turned in on it. Storage container was delivered Wednesday. We built the pad for it Tuesday, and it is set up on Precinct 1. If y'all want to come look at it, we're fixing it. Had a lot of rust on it. We're trying to clean that up. We're going to paint it the same color as the precinct barn, so it all kind of matched together. I did put a lock on the back gate of the doors. They do open well and it works well, but that lock is, we all have keys for it. It's all keyed the same, so we can really get in whatever else. And I've talked with Guy about it. When we're going to put hangers on the side of it, we can just walk down the middle of it, hang them up on the side. And he wants to build shelves and stack them. That's your deal. So I think that's what he's going to try to do.
I think wouldn't it be easier just to hang them than put shelves on them?
Let's let Guy, I mean, he's the one doing it. He's got a pretty strong opinion on this and is concerned that we aren't going to have the space you need to go down and hang them up. I mean, it's a 40-foot container, but we got 141 lights. Yeah, a lot of these lights, and
that's what
it works if he could make it at 4 inches per.
Just don't need too much
window.
weight on them. I mean, if you that bottom one bust all those bulbs,
right
back to the
well, that was my concern when he told me he wanted to build shelves for it, just stacking them. Do what you want to, and then I talked to the judge, and that's kind of what I told Guy. That's his project, and he said he'd probably get inmates to help him too. So that's taken care of. I told him about the trailer at the sheriff's office and latest been using. I told him that you had it and he could haul them out there, do whatever he wants to do with them. So that's about all I have. I was going to put a electricity to it. I told the judge I would run an electricity to it where we could test them instead of bringing them up here and putting them back up, test them out there. But I found out there is a water line that runs across that property on the back going to a private individual. He doesn't know how deep it is, and it's metal, so I don't want to get into it, so we're not going to put electricity to it or anything.
Yeah, and Guy's fine with testing them. We're going to have to haul them down here and then testing them as we put them up and fixing them at that point.
That's all I have.
Commissioner Guerin? Anything?
Yes, the board's been working on 10 horns, getting them cleaned out, doing some more road work around the precinct, waiting for it to rain where we can blade every road to precinct, hopefully, but I don't know when that's going to get here. I was hoping maybe Santa Claus would bring us a good rain, but he weaned out on us, so I guess we'll have to talk to somebody else. That's all I've got.
Commissioner Parton?
We've got our, I guess you call main dirt hauling truck. It dropped the valve, knocked hole in the piston, so It's down. We've got it tore down. I've got to have a head. Have not been able to locate a head for it because it's a 1989 model. But my guys are off through the first of the year, so maybe Santa Claus will bring me a head for an old truck. That's about all I got.
Commissioner Williams?
Working on putting a tin horn in, next week. And so we're gonna have a road closed and I'll send that to Jackie. Talk to the, bus route and the mail carrier, and we're gonna let them get by, and then we're gonna tear the road and we should be done. It's only gonna be on County Road 508 out at Williams Ranch, right there at the lakes, if y'all know where they are. So gonna do that sometime next week. So we'll have that posted. Guys are working today, doing some little odds and ends. I guess I'm kind of like everybody else. Some of them are taking vacations and different things like that. So I don't have a full week with them. Kenneth is retiring. Kenneth is our oldest, working road hand, I guess, in the county. Martin. And he has gotten with the treasurer and he is working on his actual end of last day and stuff like that and working on that. So I've already had several people bring some applications and stuff. So I'm going to probably do some interviews this week and getting that ball rolling. Other than that, we've had some signage stolen over the Christmas break. I don't know why they would take them. They took the weight signs to the bridge, to the swinging bridge. They didn't take it says Regency. They took the weight sign. So I don't quite understand that. So TxDOT is supposed to be getting us some more signs, so we'll get those back up, those weight limit signs. So they were taken on the highway, and there's two more signs before they get to the bridge, so it should be noticeable. Other than that, we're good to go.
When is Kenneth retiring? For you next month? Is that-
Yeah, it'll be in January, but he's got his vacations and, stuff that he'll acquire as of January 1. And so that part of it, a little bit of hassle there, but you know how that goes. You dealt with that when,
Sure.
with James and stuff, but we lost James and now we're losing Kenneth. And I think the next tenured road hand would be Randy. So, and then everybody else is under 5 years or around 5 years. So lost a lot of tenure there. So especially when we lost James Miller, we lost a lot of experience right there. So, but
Well, being a commissioner and being a road hand too, that meant a lot to me.
no, yeah,
On both sides.
he did. He knew all sides of it. Yeah, that's fair. And that's it.
Okay. Really late Wednesday, I had people from Blue Bonnet Wind Project come in with a request for modification on their abatement, proposing to install fewer turbines but pay the same amount of money under the pilot program. What they didn't notice was that there was a completion date in the abatement agreement of March of 2022. And now they're talking December 2022. So we're going to have to do a little work on this, and we'll be seeing something in court.
Would they give a reason why they're going to extend it for?
No, they didn't know that were not aware of the deadline. I had to point it out to them. So they were not prepared to discuss that. What did come up on the reason number of turbines has dropped is it's the number of turbines in our abatement zone. Apparently, there's other turbines in the project that run over into an adjacent county and are unabated. And then there's some turbines in Mills County that are not in the reinvestment zone and not abated. So it's not that the project's getting smaller, it's the number of abated turbines is less. So it's going to be some interesting number crunching, but my big concern is the delay, not having it done in first quarter of this year and potentially being out in the next year. I'm sorry, the following year. And this is with a project that's got a history of slipping. So that's literally just happened, and it's more to come on that. Like, it sounds like all the precincts, I promised my wife I would take some time off, and I'm going to be mostly out this week, but available. And did receive a road hand application late Wednesday. It's going down to the treasurer's office today, but I encourage everybody to take a look at it. And that's all I have. I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have
Second.
a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned. Commissioners,